everyone. My name is Eileen Neuer with Rancho Cordova Arts, and thank you for joining us for this Zoom webinar. Today we are joined by Susan Sorensen as our guest art instructor. Susan is an artist with over 26 years of art instruction under her belt. She works with a whole range of different mediums, including acrylics, oil paints, pastels, photography, you name it. Last week, she showed us a whole variety of ways to get that sketchbook brimming with creativity and how to form habits that really work with your artistic goals. Today, she will be focusing on perspective, composition, and drawing for brain health. If you have any questions, write in the chat window and Susan will respond during the webinar. This webinar will be made available on our website and Facebook page in the coming week. So again, thank you for joining us, and I will pass this over to Susan.
Hi there. I hope you can hear me okay. I am drawing with a big stick. I had a question last week about drawing marking tools, and someone wanted to know, can I do my drawings with a ballpoint pen? Well, you can do your drawing with anything that makes a mark. This is something that I had to do quite a bit of when I was in college. Not quite this long, but we had to stand way back from our picture and hopefully have a model that can hold nice and still, like Esmeralda here. She's getting kind of antsy though, because I've been working on her for a little while. It's hard to get all those ribs, because it makes shaky, squiggly lines. I have actually a tool on the end of my long piece of bamboo that is a carved quill piece of bamboo that I've tied to this. I'll show you my piece that I've been working on. It's leaking through the newsprint. In life drawing classes, you go through a lot of these pads. Let me show you what it is. Drawing large really helps to increase your drawing skill quite quickly. When you're drawing large, you're using more of your body than just bending your knuckles and squeezing with your fingers. Okay, and I'm going to show you some pieces that I have down here on the floor. Lower this. That is a 2-minute sketch done with charcoal. 2-minute sketches were often the thing for our warm-up. That's kind of an intimidating warm-up. 2-minute sketches. These are done with chalk. I'm sorry, they probably don't show up all that well. Then we would move into 10 or 15-minute sketches. And when the model didn't show up, the teacher had to have standby still lifes for us. Let's see, I'm gonna turn it the right way for you. Okay. Drawing with chalk on black paper. I love that. This was probably a 15 minutes. Oh, here's some drawing done with sticks. I think I need to get closer to that.
Hey Susan, how do you get the Susan, how do you keep that white chalk from getting on everything?
So the model stood in one position and then moved, and you don't. The reasons why I stopped doing a little bit more compared to regular drawing board chalk. So Conte crayons, I kind of don't mind drawing with them. Regular pastels, though, it's just too loose and dusty for me. That's a good question, Marcia. Thanks. There's another one. I always, yeah. Sometimes I would write on these how long. I think that's a 20-minute. Okay, I know I'm taking up a lot of time with this. 20-minute hands and feet, 20-minute. Oh wait, that one says 15-minute on the bottom. Ah, there's the proof. Oh. A lot of people would ask me, since I recommend drawing with an ink pen to increase your practice drawing ability, that's all done with an ink pen. And I didn't write how long we had. Poses were never more than 20 minutes though. So I'm guessing that's a 20-minute pose. And sometimes we only got clothed models. Okay. Alrighty. I'm going to show you some of my sketchbook work as far as shading in with ink pen. This is a little bitty sketchbook. Now, last week I started to show you doing painting from a sketch.
Susan?
And yes.
Hey, Susan, the camera's moving around so much. It's hard to see what's going on.
Making a blur. Okay.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. I know we're getting reflections. All right. Okay, trying to hold still. Okay, now I know it's going to be moving around quite a bit because I'm changing positions here. I'm going to have everybody do a warm-up exercise with me. Alrighty. I hope you have your sketchbook ready. Now, when you signed up for the class, you may have seen part of this drawing. This is something that I did in my art classes. And as a warm-up drawing, I'm going to use this piece of watercolor paper. Even though I didn't have you guys prepare one. And I'm just going to do some squares, straight lines. Remember, you can't draw straight lines because the world is round. So I would have the kids put 3 bands of color on a little piece of watercolor paper. And then after it dried later, come back and draw just designs in each of the sections. And this is one I did for an example to show. Okay. So to start off, I'd like to have everybody do the relaxation and take a couple of deep breaths. I hope that you're sitting comfortably in your chair with both feet on the floor. And think of yourself as a little janitor up in your brain attic, sweeping out all the garbage, all of the regrets, and all of the self-judging. And do some neck rolls and get yourself in a nice, comfortable, relaxed state of mind. Drawing happily is what you need to be doing. Drawing, if you're frustrated, that usually just means that you're forcing it. This is the design that I wanted you to do. I know you can't tell anything from that. Okay, I'm just going to do it across the middle. Straight lines. And they're all squiggly on this watercolor paper. What I'm using to draw with here is a tool that Cheap Joe gave the class one day. That's Joe Miller at Cheap Joe's Art Supplies. If you ever get a chance to go to the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, and take a class from any instructor there. They have an amazing studio. And every day when you come into the classroom, it's like Christmas morning, supplies waiting for you. Okay, just drawing straight lines. If straight lines are important to you, please practice drawing straight lines. And I could probably do circles. If you're right-handed, draw the left side of your circle first, and the opposite if you're left-hand dominant. So along with this nice little watercolor stick, which has a thin on one end and thick on the other, he also had a stick. Everybody got a stick. Let's see if I can find my stick. Yep. Everybody got a stick. And we were wondering, what are we supposed to do with the stick? So I had to grab my bottle of ink from my earlier drawing and find my sketchbook over here. Okay. You can use watercolor, you can use alcohol ink for using dip pen or drawing with sticks. Excuse me, this stick actually had sort of a little bevel cut into it, but it's really jagged. And so I've just started drawing. Didn't take up very much ink on that dip. I had too much on that one, but that's okay.
Susan, how do you have the tip carved on your stick?
So like I said, it's a little chisel.
Okay.
You can do it with a rose pruning tool or a little carving knife. And it's just from a bush or a branch. So you can also hold it far back, like I was doing the other stick, so that you don't get so close. If you hold your drawing tool a little bit further back, it makes a little bit more of a challenge. It adds to the fear that causes you to practice harder. There's so many branches and so many leaves on this little. Trying to draw some in between. Go ahead, ask a question.
Emily has a question for you.
Please.
Emily?
So I'm wondering, I had to figure out how to unmute myself. I'm wondering if you use greenwood or drywood.
Say that again. Oh, dry, I'm sorry, dry wood, yeah.
Drywood or greenwood, yeah. Drywood?
Yeah, it helps. It doesn't really matter because anything you can make a mark with, you can, yeah. It doesn't really matter.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have ink all over everything.
How to mute again. I see it, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, another little warm-up drawing exercise I'm going to have you do with me. Now my ink is bleeding through my paper. You might want to put a paper towel when you're using your sketchbook in between pages. Oh, and especially if you're using those fancy copal markers, or they make less expensive ones too. The alcohol markers always bleed through the paper. When I use them in my sketchbook, I usually actually glue another piece of paper on the back side. And even then when I close it, it'll stain the other side. So they make sketchbooks for these things. It has special paper. Okay, let's do another little warm-up drawing exercise. I'm going to have you draw 3 shapes little sketch over here on the side. This, more than just being a warm-up exercise, is kind of a little lesson in composition. So you can shade them in with straight lines, or you can do short lines hatching, but just shade in. So in this drawing exercise, there's no determining what is supposed to be the negative space and what is supposed to be the dominant space. So it's ambiguous. So you can be thinking these little shapes that kind of look like fingers poking into the composition could be the dominant, or excuse me, the positive or the object, or they can be the background. And probably the more you put some hatching on them, the more they will look like a background behind the white shape, which could possibly look like a bridge.
Hey, Susan.
Yes.
Francis has a question for you. Francis, you can unmute, ask your
Yeah.
question.
Okay, I was just gonna say you had a white pen there. What was that?
Oh, those are alcohol markers. And they
Okay.
bleed through the regular sketchbook.
Right.
And you
Thank
can buy them one at a time, or you can get them in sets. And they have a thick end and a thin end, just like the watercolor marker that I showed you.
So if they bleed through, are you recommending them or not?
Oh, like I was saying, they make actual sketchbooks for them. And when I use them in my sketchbook, I always glue another piece of paper on the back side.
I did
because they'll
catch that
bleed.
part. Thank you.
Yeah, they'll bleed through. Okay, good.
Good. Thank you.
Alrighty, great. Sure. Okay. So you can continue with this, but I know you don't want to watch me just make lines. Marcia just asked me a question before we started. So I'm going to just skip to that right now because I'm thinking about it. Some pens, like the watercolor one, where did it go? Yeah, here we go. This one is a watercolor marker. That means that you can take a brush and blur it. Now this one is called, let's see if you can see it. You get good light. Nope. There. It's called Elegant Writer. And it has a chisel tip. Now this one's got some fibers or something on it, like for calligraphy. And when you draw with it, it's just like a regular marking, nothing really special. And it's great for practicing calligraphy because of the chisel tip. But like the watercolor marker, you can paint with it. Let me grab a brush and some water. Sorry, here. All right, so now I've got some water. All right, so you can, with this, you could paint over it or use it to blur and make your painting. And when it dries, you can continue to do things to it. This is not watercolor paper, so it's not behaving as well as I would want it to. On watercolor paper, it would release a little bit more because the watercolor paper has sizing in it, and this is just sketch paper. But the Elegant Writer, when you wet it, and you usually get some juicy things happening because not only does it flow with the water, but there's sort of blues and purples in there. I think I need to get this closer. Yeah. Once this dries, you can't go back. It seals it into the paper and makes it permanently dry. And then you could paint on top of it, or you can draw on top of it with any other kind of marker. You can blur outside the lines, make you shadow with it. And while it's wet, Of course, you can draw back in to add more darker places. It's really a fun tool. And here we have, Marcia, I'm sorry, I'm just like skipping to your questions. The difference between form shadow, Marcia, join in anytime, and cast shadow. So a form shadow helps you see the shape of the form. The cast shadow lets you see the direction of the light. The light or the sun is over here on this side. So this is the cast shadow, and this is the form shadow over here. Kind of looks like it's hollow instead of solid. Okay, more water.
think you covered it. That's good.
Oh, okay.
Could you talk about the edges of cast shadow?
Yeah, thank you. That was the other part of it. Okay, so on a cast shadow, you always have harder edge where it's close to an object. And then the further you get away from the object, the softer the cast shadow becomes. I'm trying to blur it a little bit there. There. That looks a little bit more convincing. Okay. Yeah, alrighty. Okay, now I've gone so far away from all the things I wanted to talk about. Let me sort of are there any more questions maybe for just a second, because I'm trying to set up for another piece.
Not right now.
Oh, thanks. Well,
So,
okay,
so what you're saying is in cast shadow, the shadow that's closest to the object has hard edges, and as the cast shadow is further away, it has softer edges.
Here's a good example, maybe. This is something I did, oh gosh, way back in the early 80s when I was still in college. It wasn't for a college assignment though. It was just me messing around with shapes because I like to draw spheres and circles. I think that everybody's sort of attracted to the river rocks and bubbles, etc., the round shapes that are so prevalent in our world. And I didn't do what we're talking about. I didn't make it so it's kind of hard edged. This was before I knew too much of what I was doing as far as making a good composition, but notice it is darker where it's closer to the objects. And when you get tired of drawing reality, you could draw, let's see if I can find it. Maybe something a little bit more abstract. Okay, so here, darker where it's closer to the object, the cast shadow gets lighter as you get away from the object. In the first part of my tutorial, I talked about drawing happily. If drawing things from reality makes you tense, maybe you need to do more warm-up exercise type of drawing and cartooning, which is what kids are doing. Kids don't look at their subject. They only look at their paper, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever makes you relaxed and whatever helps you draw, that's all that counts. Let's see. And Marcia, if there's any of these things that you can't see very well, tell me.
Yeah, so far so good. That's right in the middle of the camera.
Okay.
I love the little two figures at the top left with the heart between them.
And they're holding hands.
Yes. Sweet.
Look at that. Look at that long, long arm on that one. These are drawings done by, I think, a 5-year-old, if I remember right. Yeah, my grandson, I think he was 5. And then he's got some kind of gopher, or there it is, in an underground. Pretty cool. I love it. Anyway, what I'm saying is that if that's all you want to do, there's nothing wrong with it. If you stopped drawing when you were 9 years old, then your drawing ability is still 9 years old. Let's see. So what you laughing about?
We have a question. Do scorpions live underground?
No, they don't burrow, but they get down underneath leaves and debris. They like to live where there's composting things because there's things for them to eat there. That's pretty funny. That really has a lot to do with drawing. That's great. Let's see. Oh, here's another one like the egg one that you showed. So when you get tired of drawing 300 drawings of bananas, then it might be more interesting to make a break and draw the garbage part of the banana. So if you want to look for me on Facebook in my group for drawing, it's called Draw Garbage. So this is a good example of draw garbage instead of making it perfect, because when you're drawing things that don't matter, you aren't as tense about what you're trying to do in your drawing. Drawing things that don't matter might help you relax a little bit. Oops, sorry, dead air. I was trying to find my garbage drawing sketchbook. Nope, and I've covered it up. Don't cover up the small things. Boy, talking about drawing for brain health, there's something that'll really help you when it comes to looking for something, when you feel like you've been spending all day searching the house for something and might be underneath something. Goodness, don't cover up the small stuff. Getting back to the garbage topic, let me just show you a few other garbage. Let's see. We're going to get the light on that right. There's the probably almond milk container, the lid, and a smashed cup. The end of the romaine. The wrapper from the chocolate bar. The used tea bags. Peanut shells. Make your sketchbooks a fun place to visit. Write down comments about your art. There's the peanut brittle box, all empty. Save things to glue in your sketchbooks, like the fortune from your fortune cookie. Write down in your sketchbooks how you feel about your art. Okay, sorry, I'm setting aside a lot of the stuff that I've been. These are a couple of pieces that came off of the postage stamps that I stuck on the front of this little, nice little cloth covered sketchbook. Oh, now that I've opened that page, that was an outdoor drawing for a painting. Okay.
Susan, it's Eileen.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we'll be doing an activity soon where we all do a drawing.
Yes. Okay. All right, I showed you some 2-minute drawings, and now I'm all kind of scattered out, but I wanted you to do a 2-minute drawing, couple of 2-minute drawings, like the Australian mug shots. Let's see. I'm going to use this picture from a magazine. Trying to get it aimed where there's no bad light reflection on it. Having a hard time with that. Darn, the light. Okay, maybe you can see it all right now.
I think that's pretty good. The bottom of her foot is cut off though. There we go.
Light reflection. Okay, got to move that further away. Let's start by doing 7-minute drawings. Here's some 7-minute drawings that I do in my studio, usually with friends. Set up still lives, set a timer for 7 minutes. Draw as much as you can in 7 minutes, then change to the next still life. Okay.
So Susan, would you like me to
Yes.
set a timer for when the activity starts?
Yeah, I could get it. Let's see.
Let me know if you want me to.
Let me see. Hey Siri, set a timer for 7 minutes. All right.
Your timer is set for 7 minutes.
There she goes. Okay, I'm going to use this. I can barely see my paper. All right. I hope everybody can see it okay. Yes.
Susan, would you move the magazine up a little bit so we catch the foot? Yes. very
Can you
good.
see her head?
It's just a little out of the picture, so if you move her down just a touch. Yes, very good.
Okay. Now I'm going to run out of time. I outlined her coat because it was white on white. I'm drawing the big objects first. I always make the feet too small. Don't try to be perfect. It's not going to happen perfectly. So I noticed that I put the bottom of her jacket in the wrong place and I moved it down. So I just restated the line.
Susan, I have a question.
Yes.
For novice drawers, drawing people can be really intimidating because it's so easy to make them look like something else, like maybe like less human-like. Is there any recommendations that you have if you're feeling intimidated about drawing a person, if you're worried about it not looking like a person in the end of it?
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
do. Yeah, it makes sense. And the best advice I can give you is if something makes you intimidated and nervous, practice the heck out of it. And don't expect it to happen easily. You need to put in a lot of time. We took a class from Carol Marine, who teaches oil painting. And she said, you can't make it happen quickly. You have to paint 300 paintings or draw 300 drawings before you start to feel like you're getting some success. She says, wishing that it would happen immediately is like trying to cook the Thanksgiving turkey at 1,000 degrees so you can eat it much more quickly. I know, I love that, don't you? Okay, so let's see, the same. Okay, let's try. My timer didn't even go off. I wonder if it was interrupted because a telemarketer came into my phone and made me get a message. That's interesting. Didn't Siri tell me she was setting for 7 minutes? Okay. Then I guess, Eileen, I need you to. So let's try with some time set for 2 minutes. Let me just, can you set that for us, Eileen?
Yep. So I'm going to set it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, ready and go.
Okay, 2 minutes. Well, can everybody see it? This one.
Thirty seconds left.
All righty. Thanks. Oh man, my timer's going off for 7 minutes on the other one. I must have set it for a lot longer.
Two minutes.
Ah, okay, there we go. 2 minutes. And let's try, this is a really good one for that. Can you set us another 2 minutes?
Yep. Ready when you are.
Alrighty, go ahead anytime.
Go.
We can't see the picture.
Okay. Is it showing now?
Yes.
Okay. I can't see my drawing. I'm going to outline her sleeve over there.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Okay. All right, there it is. Okay. I'm going to force you to do one more. And I hope you're getting sick of it. Eileen, can you set us another?
Yep, I'll start it now.
Okay, thank you.
Eileen, would you mute? We have some people who can't see the drawing. And they think it might be related to your sound being on.
That's 2 minutes.
All righty. Done. Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Now, okay. I think that this would be a good time to start to talk about some of the rules of composition, excuse me. I talked last time about the fact that I would cover some of that this time. Let me change my workspace around a little bit here. Hang on, bear with me. Okay, first of all, I'd like to talk about the two basic kinds of art. And this is just art according to me. This is just life according to Susan. The first type of art is non-functional. It symbolizes something or it's just to be. Art is the earliest remnant of human culture that we have. Early people decorated with bones, teeth, hides of animals. They painted with minerals and plant stains. Art for communication, expression, enjoyment. Letters evolved from pictures. Drawing pictures to show or represent locations became map making. So letters and maps are our first forms of art. The next kind, type 2, is art as a commodity, which is intimidating. it's creating art for sale or a commission, a contest, art that's done with lots of serious conscious thought. That sort of art is intimidating to produce, and it's not the kind of art that I'm talking about now. I'm talking about it falling in love with what you do. First of all, I'm going to talk about something that might happen in a composition. So I started off drawing with a bamboo stick, and everybody knows that bamboo fairly is pretty straight. I had an art student observe the bamboo in my courtyard outside my studio, and she saw this growing out there, and she put it in her drawing. She later turned her drawing into a painting and put it in an art competition down at Sacramento Fine Arts. Quite a bit of the bamboo out there grows like this. I think it's pretty funny. Well, people started telling her that bamboo can't grow like that. So I just want to mention, as far as composition, Mark Twain said, you have to tell a lot of lies to make a good story. And if something like this is confusing people, and maybe you might not want to use it in your composition or straighten it out. Last week, I was drawing a lemon, and I had a particularly long-nosed lemon. It works just fine in the photo. It's believable in the photo. But if you draw that lemon in your sketchbook or make it that way and something that you put in a frame, then I think you're probably going to have to stand next to it for the rest of the time it's hanging there and explain that that actually happened, that that lemon actually had an extra long end. That's actually the blossom end, isn't it? Okay. Things that make a composition really interesting, for starters, are S curves. Let's see if we get this where you can actually see the road making an S curve towards the mountains. A couple weeks ago, Marcia and I were helping one of our Thursday group people with painting. That's Sharon. And her painting with trees and the landscape was beautiful. And Marcia added a little bit of an S-shaped path in there, and it seemed to bump up the interest just a little bit. If you're doing an object that seems to be in motion, try not to put the object in motion heading towards the edge of your drawing. Give it some room to move forward. So if you're drawing a bicyclist, a car, a person running, or anything in motion, don't crowd the side of it where it's headed. Leave lots of room for it to head in that direction. Here's a study that I did down at the No Hands Bridge on the American River. And there's a path of light plus an S curve. So leaving a path of light is helpful in a composition. This has a path of light coming in. It's nice to have something kind of open at the bottom. It leads the eye into your composition. When you have your pieces matted, often the mat will be thicker on the bottom than on the sides, because that helps you, it helps the eye start from the bottom and lead up into the picture. If you make a high horizon line with lots of room in the bottom, make sure you have lots of bottom down here, and vice versa. If you have a big sky, put lots of interesting clouds there. If you're drawing people, animals, etc., make sure that if it's, say if I was doing a portrait of this, don't make your portrait where it's cropped at the joints. There's the knees on that white reindeer. If you're making a portrait or anything that's close up enough to where you have to crop some of it, make sure that arms, hands, ankles, knees aren't at the edge of your cropped area. portrait would work much better. Up here, anywhere in there, but at the knees. It makes the viewer feel like there's an amputation going on. So never, and this is a breaking the rules one. Oh, here's a high horizon line, interest down here, not finished, but high horizon line, low horizon line, just make sure you have something interesting in the biggest area. Should be cropped actually right there. Here's one with a very high horizon line. Not much happening down here, but I think that it's kind of a soothing feel with this reflection on a pond in the wintertime. Maybe it's ice. Okay. Now the horizon line in this one is dead center. So I broke the rules with this one. I put the horizon line immediately in the middle, and I did mountains and sky on the top side, and I did all the ground around the tree on the bottom side. But I think that it works because I think that the tree adds enough interest, both the shadow and the actual tree, to where the horizon line is not part of the attention. If you put something dead center, either vertically or horizontally, it won't have as good of a feel as if it were a little off center, like this tree. Here's the path of light. A little bit of a curve. Curves are nice. If it were like that, it probably wouldn't be quite as enjoyable as having the tree a little bit off from the center. There's Georgia O'Keeffe's beloved Pedernal Mesa. She said God told her that if she painted it enough times, he would make it hers. So here's a path of light, and kind of over here too, but there's enough interest here in the dark area because they're buildings. Whenever you have buildings, they will draw the eye. And whenever you have lots of dark against light, that will also draw the eye. And just this unusual shape also. Watch for geometric shapes in your paintings that might call attention away from the focal point. I believe the focal point in this one is that Pedernal Mesa. If you have repeated shapes like this door, make sure that each one of the shape might be a little bit different hue, a little bit different value. On this one, you can't vary the size, but for instance, the distance between tree branches, if you make all the sizes the same, your tree will start to look like a ladder. And these window panes here, this is just practice. This is the one we did with Tom Lynch a long time ago when we were practicing windows and doors. One time I did a painting, my largest one I ever attempted, my daughter on the beach with 2 pelicans flying over, and I showed it to a friend of mine who was a professional artist, and he said, you have to add a 3rd pelican. Yes, and I asked him why. He said, things don't work well. You have to have an uneven number. Okay, here's my uneven number of birds. But they're pretty much all the same value, the same size. But I think what makes the difference here is this one is looking at the viewer, and there's lots of dark around it. Make sure that all of your objects are not hard edged. If you have some darks come out into the dark of the background, it helps. Have some lights sort of be close to the same value as the background in some places. Hard outlines all the way around an object makes the object stand out a lot and maybe makes the object appear a little bit boring. Here's one that needs some help. It's an amazingly beautiful painting. Let me get up a little bit. This was a painting I bought from Kathy Ross quite a few years ago. She did this while she was in San Francisco with a workshop with Josephine. And down here in the very corner are people. When you look at a painting or a drawing and you see people, they will automatically be the focal point. You definitely don't want to put them on the edge down in the corner and add bright opera pink to a figure to draw all of the interest away from the story. You can see it better like that. Okay. Do we have any questions about composition?
Susan, would you talk about the rule of thirds
Oh, thank you. Yes.
composition?
Yes, absolutely. So if we did the rule of thirds in this one, and that is, and some people call it the golden mean. So imagine a tic-tac-toe grid cross-sectioning this painting. And each place where the grid crosses is a perfect place. I actually should draw it. Now I'm looking for my marking tools. Okay. So here's what I'm trying to say. If this is the whole size of the painting or the drawing. So they don't have to be measured exactly. So you can look at your drawing or your painting and imagine this on your paper. And the place that you want to put your focal point is here. Picasso said, you have to learn the rules of competition like a professional, so you can break them like an artist. I think that's how it goes. And this is one of those. Don't put your subject matter dead center. Don't have your horizon line dividing your drawing halfway through. Don't put your big tall pine tree down the center. Keep your focal, and if those are your focal points, that is. So those people in this painting, it would have been so nice if they were crossing the road and a little bit smaller. They're jaywalking maybe, and put them sort of in this area right here. Would have been helpful for that composition, but I like it fine without them. And I think I can do something to minimalize them and then stick this in a frame because it's pretty amazing. It was done plein air, which means right there on the spot outside. Okay, so any others, Marcia, that you can think of that I didn't get to? See?
Susan, I'm looking at this painting and seeing kind of an L shape. When I squint my eyes and look at the values, the building on the right is very dark and the ground plane is dark in the foreground.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
That makes a big L.
Oh, you're talking about this over here.
Which is another basic composition shape.
Okay, yeah. So, Marcia, are you talking about this shape? I don't know, you said foreground, I don't know. Oh, over here? I'm lost. Did I lose you, Marcia? Marcia, are you still there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the dark building on the right with the red flag in front of it. And then going across the bottom of the painting makes a big L in this particular
You're talking about that?
Artwork. Across the whole bottom of the painting.
Oh, I see.
A big L.
Okay. So you're saying that's a favorable thing?
Yeah, it's one of the basic kinds of composition.
Sure. Okay. Gosh, you know what? That's a new one on me.
Oh, okay.
Now, let's see. What else do we have? Oh, yes. I don't know if I mentioned it before. Drawing things with your non-dominant hand. That's another good brain exercise. I've had a lot of people ask me about drawing transparent objects and how to do that. Let's see if I can find that one, this one out of here. Yeah, I thought I was so prepared and had all this stuff laid out in advance. Now I'm wasting everybody's time by searching, and I apologize for that. Oh, that's a good, that's not the one I was looking for. That's a good one. Okay, transparent. So what I want to say about drawing things that are transparent, this is the one I was actually looking for. How do I make that jar look like it's transparent? How do I make a branch look like it's coming toward me? So we're talking about perspective and composition, and the only thing I can say is you have to look at the shape of it. You have to see, what is this little red shape and what is that little white shape inside of there? What is the shape of where the surface of the water is? How did this get warped in the bottom of it because of the refraction of the glass and the water? What are the colors coming through it? There's blue coming through over here. I would like to do another drawing exercise with you. And now I've made a big pile of all of my paintings and drawings. And I am having a hard time finding it. Shoot. So, aha. Here it is. Look at my sketchbook. This is artist's version of, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? Oh my gosh, bananas. Okay. What I would like everybody to concentrate on is just one little part at a time. Everything that you see in that square right there, there's lots of different shapes. There's the darkest dark, the lightest lights, just in this one little square. If you just draw that much at one time now, this is, I drew a grid on top of this photo that I took of my paintbrush in a vase. And then I drew 1-inch squares on it. If you want to make it twice the size on big paper, then you just draw 2-inch squares on your big paper when you redo it, when you redraw it. Or this actually isn't a drawing. Okay. So, but if you would like to just try right now to copy some of these shapes that you see in here with me, I'm just going to draw a square first. Okay. Let's make it a big one. Let's see if I can kind of hold this where you can see a little bit. I can move that over to the side. Okay, so first of all, we have a nice diagonal over here in this corner, just a little bit of the brush, and then it goes underwater, and so it gets crooked. Nope. The top of the water barely meets that corner. Where it's underwater, it really gets distorted. Oh wait, I'm seeing a reflection there. I don't have my glasses on. Okay, that's a reflection. So that would be like a white shape, but the brush itself goes way off to the side. It's so funny. I want to put my fingers on it like that and make it bigger. See if you can see it okay. So we have a really dark shape right here. I'll just outline it.
All right. Well, basically, I hope that just gives you some kind of idea if you were doing the whole thing. And it would force you to look at individual shapes one at a time. In the next square down, then you'll see the water comes in. Wait, let's see. Yeah. Like I said, I'm having a really hard time seeing this. Okay. Then down here, we have this, only that's the other side, and the brush continues through down towards the corner. So you have the ferrule of the brush turning into sort of a little cone shape right here. And then down in the next square, it's all different. Okay. I was reading in the AARP bulletin that just came about Gary Trudeau, who does the Doonesbury cartoon. And he said that, because he's celebrating 50 years of doing that now, he said that he still gets an artist block. An artist block is just feelings of negativity, doubting yourself, self-judging. If you're not drawing, you doubt your abilities to draw. You look at the drawings that you did do, if it's been a while since you were drawing, and you doubt that if you'll be able to live up to your own drawings. All artists, actors, everybody sometime expresses that. I've had people tell me things like, you don't know what it's like to be a beginner. And I kind of think I do every time I start a drawing. Or it's easy for you, you draw all the time. But it's always the same. It's always, there's that white paper, and where should I start on that white paper? And doing time drawings helps you get past that. I still beat myself up plenty. Sometimes I freak out. I have to decide not to do any more commissions. People don't know how to talk to artists about what they want. Makes commissions hard to do. So I keep hearing, like on late night interviews, talk shows, famous actors will say, I feel like a fraud. I feel like I will be discovered as a fraud. So if I go for a period of time, I pick up an old sketchbook, and while I turn the pages, yeah, I start to feel like somebody else did that and I'm a fraud. And I'm harshly judging my ability to measure up to my own art, because I'm judging my own ability, which I've become separated from due to non-use, not practicing. Don't let such feelings become a block. It's seriously like riding a bike, and that means if you knew something well before, you'll still know that thing just as well to continue on. I know that it's easier said than done. Marcia, do we have any more questions?
We don't right now, but that's a beautiful photo of the water with the reflections in the glass, and the way the brush changes position as it goes in the water. Really nice.
Thank you. So I think I've pretty much covered everything. I can talk about other sketches if we need to fill more time.
Maybe, I'm not sure if we can turn people's video on, but it might be fun to see what people
would love it. Yeah.
What people did. But
I wanted to mention something too while you're trying for that. I don't know if anybody saw on the news about Emily Harrington. Just became the first woman to free climb El Capitan's 3,000-foot granite cliff in a single day. She's the fourth person to free climb the 3,000-foot cliff in Yosemite. So imagine how much practice it takes to gain the strength to be able to push past the feeling of fear of falling 3,000 feet. The first person who did that, there was a documentary made on him. It was called Free Solo. Yeah. And he said that he practiced hanging by his fingers until he got to where he could hang by his fingers for 90 minutes. Well, we don't really need to get past the fear of making mistakes with a pen. Hopefully you'll draw with a pen. when you're drawing with a pen, the mistakes that you make in your sketchbook just adds artistic liveliness and a feel of creativity. But more important, mistakes prove that we're alive and that we're learning. But don't let fear stop you from drawing, because fear causes overthinking. Overthinking is trying to force creativity in an analytical way. Sadly, all of our lives in school and our jobs, we are only taught to reason and solve problems analytically, easy for me to say. Therefore, we try to use this approach to art and it doesn't work. We find courage to draw, paint, and other forms of art when we're not thinking about it, when we are not trying to force it. We got our best ideas for a new creative project while we are thinking of other things, as John Lennon wrote and sang, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Reaching your subconscious, you can't force it. Your unconscious, that is. Your unconscious is where all of your great creative ideas come from. You think of things while you're on a walk or you're in the shower. If you don't write them down as soon as you can, you're gonna lose them. There's two geniuses. I think Salvador Dali was considered a genius. Thomas Edison was the other one that recently I read about in two separate books. So coincidentally, a way that they had of reaching their unconscious mind was to sit in a big comfy chair and Salvador held keys in his hand off of the edge of the armrest, where if he fell asleep, the keys would fall to a glass plate down on the floor. So that way he could go into a dreamy state, and then that would wake him up. He'd pick up the keys and then lay back in his cozy chair and then do it again. Thomas Edison used ball bearings to do the same thing. So if you can reach your unconscious by any sort of method, having exercise to relieve stress, you could reach your unconscious and get creative ideas that way. Okay, are you getting people on the screen? I see Lori's there.
Yes, Lori was talking about the grid reminded her of the strawberry,
Yes.
bowl of strawberries picture. Maybe you'd like, Lori, if you would unmute, you can talk about that a little bit.
And I was just trying to find that. The strawberries.
Yeah. Hey, Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that what you were doing with the paintbrush and the glass reminded me of the little squares we all had. They were what? Were they?
So everybody got a 1-inch square. So I cut up the little squares in the picture, and then I gave everybody a 2-inch square of watercolor paper to use any medium they wanted. Some people used colored pencils, some used acrylic, some used watercolor. And there was one person who didn't add color, which was okay too. It was kind of a muted color. Let me see if I can find it on my phone, because I can't find it in my studio. I have too much stuff. Let's see, search for strawberries.
I was just going to say that if anyone wants to share the work that they've done, you could put your hand up and we'll allow you to show your video. We'll promote you to a panelist, and then you can turn your video on and show us what you've been working on. I'm so curious to see what everyone has worked on. So yeah, put your hand up or just write in the comments saying you'd like to turn your video on.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, still looking for the strawberries. No. A radiating composition makes a really interesting piece. And verticals, make sure that when you do verticals or any repeating type of shape, that they are spaced differently. Ooh, the crucifix is an interesting composition. Huh. This one is called Stellar. Low horizon line, high horizon line. When you do warm-up exercises practicing making straight lines, this is done where the pen never leaves the paper. So you can try to see if you can make something out of your straight lines besides just unconscious back and forth, up and down. This is a good exercise in positive and negative shapes. So you can take a cutout from a magazine, fold it into quarters. Swimsuit magazines are the best because you can see more of the human form. And then you can make the same let's see. Well, trying to find something else here. Let me see. Oh, good. Here's one. If you wanted to make this a little bit bigger and you want to get it drawn just right, you can put a ruler across your picture. Going diagonally across from point to point. And anywhere along this part of the ruler, you can put a stopping point and then draw a line horizontally across. And now it'll be to scale. Now it looks like I'm drawing crooked, but I'm not. So then you take the little, this is ink blobs on here, by the way. And then you fold this in half and put a crease in it, both horizontally and vertically. And that'll give you a grid on here. And then you can measure this out and divide it in half. And an easy way to measure this out and divide it exactly in half is to make a paper ruler. So if you put a piece of paper from one corner, okay, then I can fold that other half over to it in order to find exact center. Same with the top. Fold that over to find exact center. I'm always making paper rulers to figure stuff out. It's easier than doing the math. Okay, now I have it divided in half, vertically and horizontally. Then I can just draw these big negative shapes. And here's, if you can't see where it's divided in half. So over here, about right there. Okay, so we have her arm. It almost goes just a little bit towards the bottom. Skinny arm. We have one negative shape. And this one goes right over towards the other side. So this is really good practice, or just tracing it. This helps you see negative shapes, positive shapes. Just increases your ability to be able to draw from reality. So everything that we've been doing together is from pictures, which if I had a live model set up, you would see it on your screen. It would still be like seeing a picture. I would encourage you to try drawing from actual things as much as you can compared to drawing from pictures is a crutch. Drawing with a grid like this is a crutch. Tracing is a crutch if you continue to do it and don't graduate to drawing from reality. I'm trying to find some more stuff here. Uh-oh. Sorry about the noise. That's my dog. Drawing from TV is good drawing practice. So if you find a TV show that you can just sit and look at where you're seeing the same characters over and over. So you draw on one character when they're no longer in frame, jump to another character and draw that character while they're in frame. And so just start all these faces around on there. It's a nice challenge. A good way to do that is in a talk show. Like say if you're watching Jimmy Fallon and it'll jump back and forth from the person he's interviewing back to him. And you can take turns drawing one person, then go back to the other person when you no longer see them to continue your drawing. Drawing your own hand. These are other people's hands. I draw my hand while I'm drawing. I think one of those is my hand. Drawing people while you're waiting. These are done in a workshop while someone was demonstrating. And there's the teacher who was demonstrating. Oh. That's Bev Joswiak.
Ah. Susan, we have some people who would like to share their sketches.
Oh, yay, let's have it.
Okay, Eileen, take it away.
So Janice, do you want to show your work? If you click on unmute and click on video to turn it on. I can see you've unmuted. If you're not able to do your video,
no, it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, I'm just going to change you to co-host and then you'll be able to click on it.
Okay.
Okay. Does that show up for you now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. So this was the one where she was holding, I'm trying to get this right, holding the bag.
Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful.
Thank you. This was the one where she was sitting down. With
nice. That's great.
I didn't get to finish the one because that was the one where it kept going away. So I started.
Oh, yeah.
There. And then this was, and this one really helped me. I had to do the lines over again. I love what the time drawings do because you can really see how you're off on things. And, you know, it's just getting it quickly, but I like that
it forces you to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And that's it. Thank you.
Great.
And I'll say this was not at all what I was expecting today from the description. However, it was great getting all these tips and techniques. I wrote down some of the things you said, you know, some of the pointers because I want to use art with children. So I love the idea of drawing garbage and letting them have some self-esteem around this. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh gosh, that's so great. Good to hear. Glad.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Janice. And well done with your work, really, absolutely.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank you
for doing those timed drawings. Is there anyone else who'd like to share what they worked on?
Okay, if not, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, that letters are one of the earliest forms of art. Here is something I just wanted to share quickly. I was explaining this to Marsha one time. It's kind of fun. My calligraphy teacher taught us this. So when United States first broke off from England and they created their own dollars, and they called it United States currency. And that had to be written out each time, but then they started using just U and an S for US currency. Then they tried to scribble the U with the S. They had to simplify the U, which became this. And then of course, people always keep trying to simplify to make things more speedy, which turned into this dollar sign. So I think that's kind of how letters evolved from symbols. This is, I don't do abstract, but this is just a little project I did for some people who were asking me to help them figure out how to do an abstract. I did this just simplified tree, and then I tried to turn it into something else. But then possibly, if you then turn that into something even more simplified, it might look like the letter T. So therefore, the tree would become the letter T, which yes, stands for tree. And then something Marsha told me about 2 years ago, this is all done with letters. It's all writing, this avocado, to use for shading in the values of the fruit and the pit. And all of it can be read if you look really close. There's words there. Ischemic writing doesn't necessarily have to be readable letters and words, but that was a fun thing to do with the letters. Let's see, I don't know if it even comes in focus for you. You can start to see words in there. I did really small words around the outside to make the rind of the avocado. Okay. Did somebody say something about ischemic writing in the comments? I'm actually seeing some comments coming up on here.
That was me, Susan.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's see, I have lots of other projects. Oh, I know, the best question ever. So last year at the end, we got the question, do you have to learn how to draw before you can paint? Which brings me to a book recommendation. It's called But Is It Art? So look, Picasso said, all children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. These are drawings that my grandson did when he was 4 years old. I don't know if these artists learned how to paint. Jackson Pollock. Pierre Salage is a French artist who is recently in the news. He is called the painter of black, and the reason why he's in the news is because he's only the third person in history to have a display at the Louvre while he was still alive. He does some things where they're big black brush strokes on a white canvas where you can still white and maybe add a little bit of color, but mostly what you can see by the proportion of the person in there, how big these canvases are. There's no white on them. All of these sort of vertical, horizontal stripes are the thick, thick, thick black paint. And with the light reflecting off of it makes the design. Here we have Marc Chagall and Mark Rothko. Marc Chagall's drawings remind me of the drawings of 5- and 6-year-old children, maybe 7 or 8 too. But they're very fun, very whimsical. Basically, what I'm trying to say with this is that whatever works for you, I'm not trying to say there's any right or wrong. Rothko did these monstrous canvases that were maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 colors. This person, these pictures remind me of something my art teacher said in college. He was fresh out of Berkeley, and he said his teacher told him, this was when he was trying to help people with their live drawings from the nude model. He said, "You can't hang tits on a clothesline." And I thought, oh, that's so, it always stuck with me. You know how things just stay forever, and you always refer back to it. I have to like show you this. So I worked really hard, and I think I got her figured out. I always make the heads a little bit too big. But this artist says that her models are, all the girls in her painting are joyous, and they don't give a darn. Only in the article, she used the F word instead. So I have a couple of other books. All the things that I've been telling you, you could say the opposite is also true. This is such a fun book to read, with just a single statement on each page, and then on the opposing page, it'll tell you the opposite is also true. Let's see, do I have one marked? Oh, I do. I like this one. Get credit for it. And it talks about how you should sign everything and only sell it and don't let anybody copy you. The other one is called Share Your Work and Steal, like Picasso says, steal, steal like an artist. Another book is actually called Steal Like an Artist. And this one doesn't have too many pictures, but oh my gosh, it's such a fun read. Once you get going, you'll just whiz right through it without any trouble. I mentioned that there's ballpoint pen drawing lessons on Sketchbook School and sketchbookschool.com. The school is spelled SK instead of SCH. That's done by Danny Gregory and lots of other artists. This is one of his first really popular books, and I very highly recommend this one. Danny Gregory, Art Before Breakfast. And now he made a book that you can draw in. So it's Art Before Breakfast, the workbook. So it gives you pages for you to add your own drawings when he gives you a lesson. And his Art Before Breakfast is so fun to read. And it's, oh, that's interesting. It kind of looks like the warm-up exercise we were doing. Stuff on the table, outlined negative and positive spaces. That's a good one to do. Food and plates on the table. His drawings are great. I think I finally found all my material and covered the things I wanted to do. And if we have any more questions or anybody else that'd like to show their art, it would be so nice.
Susan, we don't have any more volunteers to show their art, and
Okay.
we don't have any more questions.
Okay, then I'm wrapping it up on my end.
Okay.
Yes. I want to thank everybody for joining me and sticking with it.